What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. If you want to support me, you can now follow me on Patreon. Not only is it the best way to support the channel, additionally you'll get more say in what decks I cover. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons. Newsom, you rock. Now let's get into today's Deck Tech with Rainbow Dash. And today we are going to be slaughtering our friends with Friendship. Yes, this girl actually has a lot of power to her. All you need is 5 flyers on the battlefield, which is incredibly easy to do, and this is a 5-color deck, so we have access to all of the best 5 colors. You can call this a 5-color good stuff flying deck because that's exactly what it is. We're going to play all of the best flyers, we're going to bash face with the best flyers, and then we're going to use her ability to shove some massive flyers onto the battlefield. From there, we're going to end out the game with some combat tricks, savage beating, one of my favorites, Chroma's Will, going to make it, and then Triumph of the Horde. There's a lot of little flyers in the deck, so only having to deal 10 damage instead of 40 can really speed up the game and knock some players out. Hey, they might be a little salty, but remember they can't hate you too much for playing an adorable commander like this. So if that sounds like a deck tech you want to get into, let's get into it. Let's kick it off by going through 34 cards that either generate flyers or are flyers. Birds of Paradise is going to be amazing here. Being able to tap for any color, Skycat Sovereign and Watcher of the Spheres are going to be amazing for this flying theme. Ledger Shredder, Malcolm, and Rafine can really churn us through our deck, discarding the cards we don't need and draw us into the cards we need. Fairy Mastermind, just solid card advantage. Brina is another solid way to get card advantage while making one of our creatures big. Vanguard Suppressor, this one's going to be amazing since it has that squad ability. We can tap our commander and then 1 more mana, and then we get 2 of these guys, and we're going to start drawing a ton of cards. And that's kind of where the low end is. The high end of this card is insane. Baleful Strix enters the battlefield, prevents people from blocking or attacking us, pretty good. Talion, throw it on the battlefield, we all choose 2, that's the number, and then just enjoy your card draw. Atraxa also seemed pretty solid here. These cards are usually a no-go in 5-color decks, but when our commander taps for Wooburg, we can definitely slot these. Now we just tap our commander, pay 2 mana, and boom, we've got an Atraxa that digs us super deep, getting us our key pieces. Tivit, another just bomb that we can slap onto the battlefield, generate card advantage, generate treasures. This guy kind of just does everything. He even hits pretty hard. Battle Angel of Tyr, again, we're going to get card draw, some treasure tokens, some life gain. Two-Headed Hellkite is another fun card we get to run. It kind of does everything we want, has flying, has haste, we get to draw cards, 2 cards in fact. Klauth, Unrivaled Ancient, it's very easy to slam this guy and then throw your entire hand onto the battlefield. Now you just have a ton of flyers. Goldspan Dragon, just some solid treasure token generation. Derevi can untap all of our lands. We didn't include any infinite combos because including Nigella in this deck would just be insanely broken since it basically combos off with our commander. Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. Suspend this guy and you're just going to get a solid supply of flyers that can feed your commander's coolness. Zerium and Tyrannid Herodon, they do take a little bit to ramp up, but once they get there, you're going to get a massive board state and you're going to be able to activate your commander once a turn, which is going to be amazing. The Locust God, this deck has the potential to draw a ton of cards, and now whenever you're drawing those cards, you're just getting a massive board state of flying hasty insects, which is exactly what the deck wants to do. Drana just comes down early and starts buffing our board a little bit. That way they get a little beefier and a little bit harder to block. Shalai is going to be an amazing way to not only buff our entire board up, but additionally protect our entire board. Sephara, another way to protect our entire board. All we have to do is tap 4 creatures and pay 1 white, and we get a 7/7 and our board gets indestructible. She doesn't, but the board does. Pretty busted. Kanji, another way to make our board super hard to block, and it just makes our board better blockers, right? Kira is going to be another way to protect our creatures. Azor's in here to protect our commander. We have Glenalindra Archmage, another way to counter spells while also fitting the theme. Siren Storm Tamer kind of does the same thing. I found that if you throw these cards on the battlefield, people won't even try to remove your stuff because people just don't like their spells to be countered. So they'd rather remove your opponent's thing and not have their spell be useless, and you just dodge more removal than you normally would if these are on the battlefield. Feywild Visitor, this one's going to be solid. All you have to do is make sure you're attacking all 3 of your opponents with non-token flyers, and you can net up to 3 flyers a turn. Bitter Blossom's going to be solid. Play it early and you're just going to get a constant flow of fairies. Luminarch Ascension, again, get this on the battlefield early and it's going to easily pop, and you can start just making a ton of 4/4 angels. You can win the game with this card. Shaman of the Great Hunt, now this does take a little bit to get going since our creatures are small, but once we get them big enough, we can draw a ton of cards with this, and it's a solid way to buff our board state. Now that the flyers are out of the way, let's get into the core of the deck. We have Reconnaissance Mission and Toski, Bearer of Secrets. This deck goes very wide, so now these two cards can draw us a ton of cards. Inga and Asika are kind of insane in this deck. We can easily attack with our whole board this way without tapping them, and then after we draw a ton of cards, we can tap them to play the cards we drew. It can be extremely busted. Savage Beating is going to be a pretty solid card. As long as you have 5 mana, all your creatures will have double strike, and you'll get an additional combat step to go ahead and try to end out the game. Triumph of the Horde is going to be very useful in this deck. We do run a lot of low power creatures, but they are flying, so giving us an option to take a player out just by dealing 10 damage to them is going to be pretty powerful. Cathar's Crusade, if we can't get him with Triumph of the Horde or Savage Beating, we're just going to go wide and we're going to go tall. This card makes that happen. Akroma's Will, another way we can not only protect our board, but also get in for the win. Beastmaster's Ascension, another card that rewards us for going wide, and it just makes our creatures massive and can easily end out the game. Lightning Greaves are here just to protect our commander or any of our key pieces. Clever Concealment has done some insane things for me recently. The fact that this is basically a free spell is insane, and it protects your entire board. If that doesn't work, Ascend from Avernus is going to just reanimate our entire board and throw it back onto the battlefield. A lot of our creatures are low to the ground, so this card can be extremely impactful in this deck. Windfall is just a very efficient card draw card. Minx Gambu, again, not only is this very efficient card draw, but additionally it can be removal in a pinch, and it also fits the theme of the commander because that hamster has haste. Moving on to the ramp spells, we kept it extremely simple. We have Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Selesnya Signet, Felwar Stone, Simic Signet, and then we have 3 visits, Nature's Lore, and Farsi. Moving on to interaction, we have our counterspell package with Swansong and an Offer You Can't Refuse. Swords to Plowshare can get rid of any creatures we need to get rid of, and then we have Beast Within and Generous Gift. I absolutely love these two. They're a little more expensive, but they're extremely flexible, and you'll always be happy to see them. Bane of Progress is going to get rid of any of those enchantment or artifact strategies. Earthquake can kind of be a one-sided board wipe in this deck since we are running a ton of flyers. Additionally, this deck is kind of very aggro and wants us to attack constantly, so it can honestly be a way to end out our opponents since we are chipping away at their life total constantly throughout the game. Blasphemous Act is going to be solid just in case anybody else starts to get scary and go wider than us. We can just shut that down right away, and then we do have a couple things that give us protection or give us indestructible, so it could be one-sided in the right scenario. That's going to bring us to the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a silver bordered card, so you will have to okay it with your playgroup, but honestly, I don't think it's super insane, and it's kind of a fun deck to play, just adding a ton of mana to your mana pool, drawing cards. It does everything I want a commander to do, but it's not out of the realm extremely broken at the same time, right? I could see this card very easily existing in today's format. Last but not least, I would like to thank my patrons, especially my high contributing ones, Newsome, Chicken Salad, Excessum. You guys are amazing. You keep the channel going, as well as all my other patrons. Again, I appreciate every one of you. With that being said, I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you guys in the next one.